And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Wednesday morning showing a big area of IFR coming into the western part of the state here, moving into Bristol Bay, extending westward to about just east of Atka Island, or actually just east of Atka Island. VFR for ADAC, and VFR central interior from the Gulf of Alaska up to the Arctic Ocean. Panhandle VFR, and for the afternoon, VFR for the southeast coast here up to about Yakutat. Marginal VFR shifting eastward here slowly in toward the border, staying VFR eastern North Slope and Arctic coast. IFR along and south of the Brooks Range here from the western upper Yukon Valley, Koyukuk, Kobuk Valleys right on up to the northwest coast. South there across the Bering Strait, Seward Peninsula into Norton Sound, marginal VFR to the south of that. And again, this area kind of splitting here with just areas of marginal VFR for the Kuskokwim Valley, staying mostly VFR for Cook Inlet and down in toward Kachemak Bay. Big area of IFR here for the southeast Bering Sea, eastern Aleutians, Bristol Bay, and the Alaska Peninsula. And for Thursday morning, lots of IFR here out over the eastern and northern Bering Sea, well inland here and covering much of the western interiors and to the north, south of the Brooks Range. Marginal VFR mid and upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country down into the Susitna Valley, northern Cook Inlet actually, and marginal VFR for the Madanuska Valley into the Cop River Basin with IFR southern Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, and mostly marginal for the southeast coast, and then becoming VFR here, eastern Aleutians from Unalaska to Adak. And for the afternoon, a little bit of marginal VFR infiltrates the central Aleutians there, stays VFR for the eastern Aleutians and becoming VFR for the Alaska Peninsula, right on up into Kodiak Island. Marginal VFR, some areas of IFR here for south central Alaska and the Kuskokwim Valley, mostly IFR, as well as Yukon Delta, Norton Sound, portions of the Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island, and IFR here along the North Gulf Coast, spreading into the northern Panhandle. Passes and Tupakanadigan, VFR for the day on Wednesday. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR with thickening lowering clouds throughout the entire day, becoming possibly IFR on the western approach of both passes. And that same pattern also good for Rainy Pass. And for windy, VFR becoming marginal VFR. Isabel, VFR becoming marginal VFR, probably later in the day than windy will be. Mentesta optimistically holding at VFR through the day, and Tanita also VFR. Portage staying VFR, and Chilkoot and White VFR. Freezing levels here at the surface, North Gulf Coast, or just south of the North Gulf Coast tomorrow morning, cutting down across Prince of Wales Island, and out to the west, a little milder here, 2,000 to 4,000 feet or more here for the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula area. And for icing, considerable moderate rime icing here with this portion of the front swinging up into the northern interior there, so look for some heavier icing there. And down here, a little bit weaker portion of that front moving across, so just some areas of considerable moderate in a narrow band there, just grazing the North Gulf Coast. And then another batch here over Bristol Bay. And for the jet stream, good southwest jet here, 155 knots, west-southwesterlies there for the central Aleutians, turning more westerly at about 135 knots or so across southern Alaska, and then diving southward here, 80 knots northerly flow for the Panhandle. And at 9,000 feet, basically westerly flow here across the area, 40 to 50 knots. Stronger though for the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, 65 knots there. And for 3,000 feet, 50 knots out of the west for the Alaska Peninsula, otherwise west-southwesterlies, 40 to 50 knots, strongest up here from the Seward Peninsula back into the northwest Bering Sea, and 45 knots out of the west for the Aleutians, but much lighter over the central eastern interior, Gulf of Alaska, and the Panhandle. So looking at turbulence, nothing too significant for the southeast coast or the eastern interior here, but considerable moderate turbulence spreading into Kodiak Island, northeastward here to the Aleutian Range and extending all the way out to shimmy in at 2. And also moderate turbulence in the forecast here for the western part of the state from the Brooks Range southward into the lower and mid Yukon River Valley areas.